the people of the world. O Muni, because I told you before that I would become your son, I have descended to fulfill this truth. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kadama Muni was to leave his life to completely engage in the service of the Lord. But since he knew that the Lord himself, as Kapila, had taken birth in his home as his own son, while he is preparing to leave home and search out. But since he knew that the Lord himself, as Kapila, had taken birth in his home as his son, why should he be preparing to leave home to search out self-realization or God-realization? God himself was present in his home, why should he leave home? Such a question may certainly arise, but here it is said that whatever is spoken in the Vedas, whatever is practiced in accordance with the injunctions of the Vedas, is to be accepted as authoritative in society. Vedic authority says that a householder must leave home after 50th year. Pancha, Sodvam, Varnam, Rajet. One must leave his family life and enter the forest after the age of 50. This is an authoritative statement of the Vedas based on the divisions of social life into 4 departments of activity: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Kadama Muni practiced yoga very rigidly as a brahmacharya before his marriage, and became so powerful and attained so much mystic power that his father, Brahma, ordered him to marry and beget children as a householder. Kadama did that also. He begot 9 good daughters and 1 son, Kapila Muni, and thus his household duties were also performed nicely, and now his duty was to leave. Even though he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he had to respect the authority of the Vedas. It's an important lesson, very important lesson. Even if one has God in his home as his son, one should still follow the Vedic injunctions. It is stated, Mahajanu yena gata sapanta, one should traverse a path which is followed by great authorities. Karadama Muni's example is very instructive, for in spite of having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he left home just to obey the authority of Vedic injunctions. Kadama Muni stated here that the main purpose for his leaving home, while traveling all over the world as a mendicant, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and thereby be free from all anxiety of material existence. In this age of Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited because persons in this age are all sudras and they now cannot follow the rules and regulations of sannyas life. It's very commonly found that so-called sannyasis are addicted to nonsense, even to having private relationships with women. This is a abominable situation in this age. Although they dress themselves as sannyasis, they still cannot free themselves from the 4 principles of sinful life, namely, illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling. Since they are not free from these 4 principles, they are cheating the public by posing as swamis. In Kali Yuga, the injunction is that no one should accept sannyas. Of course, those who actually follow the rules and regulations must take sannyas. Generally, however, people are unable to accept sannyas life, and therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed, Kalonastyeva nastyeva gata anyataha. In this age, there is no other alternative, no other alternative, no other alternative than to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. The purpose of sannyas life is to be in constant companionship with the Supreme Lord, either by thinking of him within the heart, of hearing of him through oral reception. Either by thinking of him within the heart or hearing through oral reception. In this age, hearing is the most important, more important than thinking, because one's thinking may be disturbed by mental agitation. But if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound vibration of Krishna. Krishna and the sound Krishna are non-different. So if one loudly vibrates Hare Krishna, you will be able to think of Krishna immediately. This process of chanting is the best process of self-realization in this age. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya preaches so nicely for the benefit of all humanity. Hare Krishna. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshul Umritam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svaparantakam. Vandeham Siguru Siyuta Padakamalam Sigurun Vaishnavam Sha Sirupam Sagajatan Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaduta Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitana Devam Siddhartha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sha. Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopi Kanta Radha Kantanamustute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuveva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi Vinamurma Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasigo Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. So Kapila said, whatever I speak, whether directly or in scripture, is authoritative in all respects for the people of the world. O Muni, because I told you before that I would become your son, I have descended to fulfill this truth. I have already. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, whatever people may speak in this world is, unless it is quoting Krishna or scripture or Srila Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, is actually irrelevant. It doesn't make a difference when we leave the body. It doesn't make a difference. There was this woman in the Irish television, and we were on the show and presented Krishna consciousness sincerely. And then this conveyor, one who conveyed this talk show, he called in a woman who wrote a book about sex, how to be good and bad. And then the interviewer turned to me after she, how do you say, poured out her filth to the public. It was just filth, clear filth. She said, now, Prithu Das, what do you think of it? And I said very clearly, this is animal life. The animals, they sleep, they eat, they have sex, and they defend themselves. And if you not only millions of people by pushing a button, but also killing the child, in the womb. And then I turned to her, and I said, this book. And then she objected, and she said, and all of you should read this book, she said to the public. And I said, and television cut this out, actually. I said, she should sell it actually in hell. And then everybody was clapping. People appreciate it, actually. Because, such a book should not be on the market. It is the way, even the paper, move. Even the paper, these are trees. Prabhupada said at one time, all trees should only be killed to produce paper for Krishna conscious literature, because any other literature is rubbish, basically speaking. It won't help. It is a material sound vibration, and unfortunately we have ingested so much of it since childhood on that there is some addiction there, that we are addicted to the material sound vibration in terms of music, and some of it is beautifully done. Even great musicians like Bach and Mozart and Handel, in European tradition, they produce beautiful music. And even the cows like it. In Germany, they found out that if you play Jimi Hendrix or rock and roll or even the Beatles, the cows give less milk. But if you play Handel, Bach, and Mozart, they feel very happy. They give more milk, because it is a more celestial sound vibration. In fact, it is interesting to know that in this regard, that Mozart, a huge He wrote beautiful music when he was 4 years old. How is that possible? It's obviously in past life. We know the answer. You cannot be a great musician like that from childhood on. Einstein was able to solve mathematical equations with 4. You can't. There's a professor, he's only 5 years old, Indian boy. He's installed as a professor, I forgot what university it is, right? He's a genius. So where does he get from? That's past life, no doubt about it. And so this Mozart, his thing is he's the only musician that never corrected his writing. From the first sheet of his piece of work to the last, there's never been one correction in all his work. And he was asked by one king, he was, I think, the king of Bavaria, no, not Bavaria, of Sachsen-Anhalt in Germany. He asked him, how do you do this? He said, because I have accepted the profession of a secretary. He said, I'm not actually a composer. I'm a secretary. I just write down what I hear within. He said, that's why it's possible. Not one fault, because he just writes down what he hears within. So Krishna is the best musician. And his music is perfect. There was one famous rock and roll band in the 60s, Ian Anderson, a fantastic flute player, and his band, absolutely stunning. He would stand on one leg and play the most extraordinary music. And he was asked after one show, he said, do you think that you are the most perfect musician, flute player in the world? He said, no. He said, who is it? He said, Krishna. You know, he had this bright moment to say that, you know, very famous musician. He said, it is Krishna. He's the most famous and most beautiful musician in the world. And so this Mozart also, Krishna, can express himself in so many ways. He expresses himself in the beauty of nature. If you just see how many butterflies are there, anybody knows. 25,000 different kinds of butterflies. How is it possible? How can the evolutionist explain how an ugly caterpillar turns into a beautiful butterfly? It's impossible. It's such a quantum leap. It's such a quantum leap which is impossible. You cannot explain. They can explain it as a bird has a beak like this, and then there's another bird is born of the same family, has a bigger beak, and another one is born even bigger. And he's the bigger one, with the biggest beak, he's able to crack the nuts, and therefore he survives. So that's the explanation, by selection, by natural selection. But how do you explain how a butterfly, how a caterpillar turns into a beautiful butterfly? How do you explain this? What is the explanation for that? What is your answer? Answer my question. What is your answer? I have the answer. When somebody steals in a house, he leaves a fingerprint. So the thief is gone, but those who are experts, they can see this is Mr. Johnson's. That's his fingerprint right here, and the rest Mr. Johnson. And he admits, I did it. So in the same way, the butterfly is Krishna's beautiful fingerprint. It's a fingerprint of God. There's no other answer. You know, God was there. Actually, he's everywhere, but this is a particularly good example to smash the evolutionist theory. And none of the evolutionists had ever been able to answer this question. Never would ever go into the television show that Israel said, answer my question. Why? There's a butterfly, an ugly worm turned into beautiful. I mean, think about it. Imagine you have a car, you put it into the garage. Next morning you see the roof is off, and you see your yellow car flying in the sky. It has created wings. With wings in the sky. And people say, what is it? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Then somebody says, no, it is Batman. Speculation. People start speculating. The classical formula. Is it a bird? It's a plane. It's Batman. And so you see, God's glories are manifested actually at every moment. If we actually would see, say we would leave this place, we all would leave Bengaluru for 500 years. And what would we see? We'll see deer roaming around, the whole houses are fallen in, overgrown by ivory. Finally, they look beautiful. The whole forest will take over, big trees everywhere. You see some name shield, the rest of it, but it's, every house is a house of birds and animals and deer and moose and what are these? Bisons, gigantic bisons are roaming the streets. And there will be lakes everywhere. If you leave nature unattended, it heals itself. You scratch yourself, right? What happens? You just leave it, as long as you leave it alone, it will heal itself. If the scratch is too big, what do? It has to be stitched, right? Why? The stitching itself is not healing. If you break your arm, you put it into a brace. Brace? Gypsum plaster of Paris brace. The brace itself doesn't heal you. What heals you? That you don't move it, that you leave it alone. It heals automatically. That's required. So if we leave things alone, then we find that everything takes shape in a very beautiful way by the will of God. That's a fact. And so as long as we don't scratch. But Western civilization in particular is a civilization of people who scratch all the time. Scratch, 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 and then put this medicine, that medicine, this medicine, another injection, another injection. One thing after another, and there's no solution. People become more and more ill and more sick, right? No matter how much, by the end of the day. But if we leave it alone, then we will find that actually God heals everything. If there's any problem we cannot solve, why should we solve it? We just wait, we just pray to Krishna, please give me guidance. And let me depend on you to solve the problem. And this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, in all activities depend on me and work always under my protection. In this activity, you become fully conscious of me. Is that so? Can we just find this verse? It's in the 18th chapter, maybe 54, 1854. Let me find it myself. What happened to the mouse? Thank you. There's this beautiful verse. Now this process is precisely explained by Krishna himself. And that is, here we go. Come on, baby. Light my fire. 18. No. So he says, here's a verse. I got it wrong. How is this possible? I have a problem, a glitch here in my computer. In order as Shitasa Sarvakamani Mai Sanyasya Matpara Buddhi Yoga Mupashritya Machita Satatam Baba. Bhagavad Gita 18:57. In all activities just depend on me and work always under my protection. in such devotional service, he becomes fully conscious of me. So this is the thing, if one is in this dependency of Krishna, if we wait for Krishna, like when sometimes you have a situation in your life, 100% you will have situations like that, that you will ask somebody maybe that I'm very confused. I don't know what I shall do in this situation. So if you don't know what to do, how do you become confused? If you try to make a decision. If it's not clear and you try to make a decision, you become in a very confused situation. At night, you don't see anything. You don't know where to go. So instead of making a decision, when you make a decision, what happens? You will end up in a hole, in a creek. So what you have to do to avoid this confusion, I don't know what to do, what shall I do, what shall I do? Answer is very simple, one word, wait. Wait. The solution may be just right around the corner if you wait. You know, this is a rule of thumb. If you don't know, you just wait. Don't act in, Prabhupada said, in unclarity. If things are not clear, wait. And then in due course of time, Krishna will give you the right answer. It will come to you. Pray to Krishna, pray to Lord Chaitanya, pray to Prabhupada, pray to your spiritual authorities, pray to Lord Balaram, and pray to Lord Nishingadev. The answer will come, and that is a good answer. That is a perfect answer. So if you don't know what to do with your life, then just wait instead of running headless, without any knowledge and any vision, into something that you will regret in due course of time. Just wait. And sometimes in life we have to wait for that. This is a good lesson I can give you, that it's the best thing to wait and see how things come out gradually. And everything comes out gradually. Because, as it says in India, Satyam eva jayate. Satyam eva jayate. But Prabhupada said, or I don't know Prabhupada, he said, while the lie is traveling 7 times around the globe, the truth is still putting its shoes on. Truth is still putting its shoe on, you know. If you want to go out of the door, you have to put your shoes on. So lie is already 7 times around the globe without shoes. And the truth is putting its shoes on, because the shoes knows, I don't have nothing to worry about, it's just a matter of time. Let him go crazy, let him do his mad thing. Let him manifest his adolescence, you know, his childishness. And in due course of time, it will come out. You know, so therefore, Krishna, time I am destroyer of the worlds. He's time. You know, and so we have to give sometimes situations in our life a little time. And then he says, Krishna says, where are you? Okay. I cannot get this verse. Somehow when one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as a master of the world. Just like a servant, one should act under the full direction of the Lord. A servant has no individual independence, he acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on the master of the behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by loss and profit. He simply charges his duty in terms of the order. Now one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna. But when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matpara is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal, in life, save and except acting in Krishna consciousness, just to satisfy Krishna. This is the mentality of a pure soul. While acting in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I've been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in this way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should note, however, after doing something whimsically, it should not offer the result to the Lord. That sort of duty is not in devotional service, one should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. And then Prabhupada says in the next verse, if you become conscious of me, he says, if you work under my direction, you become conscious of me. That was the last verse. Then if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. So the key is to become conscious of Krishna. The key is to become conscious. Then we can cross over all the difficulties of material life. Otherwise we will simply perform ugra karma. We think we are more intelligent than Krishna. That we think, then on the material level or in the real world of ISKCON, maybe you think you're more intelligent than Srila Prabhupada. You know better. This is foolishness. So, as Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. There it is. We need the grace. We need the grace of Krishna to chant. We need the grace of Krishna to hear. We need the grace of Krishna to do anything. One time I was on a yoga festival in Berlin. Everybody and his mothers was there. Every movement, every guru, every this and that. And so I spoke to the headman, a famous yogi in town. And I said to him, I'm hungry. I said, I want to go, I see there's maybe some vegetarian place. He said, well, I'm not going to go there. I go to the meat. I said, how do you do that? You're a yogi. You're a yogi. How can you do that? How can you eat meat? And he said to me, well, I can't stop it. He said, I tried many times, and I cannot give up eating meat. Not possible. So I try whatever. And so I said, he said, are you not eating meat? I said, yeah, no, I don't eat meat. How did you give it up? He said, it was not a problem. So then he said, that is because you have the grace of God. And that was the true thing he said. You have the mercy that you can do it. I can't do it. And that's very true, that if somebody is able to give something up, this is Krishna's mercy. Prabhupada was made out of Krishna's mercy. He was completely free from anything. That's Krishna's mercy. Even to chant, that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one of his famous prayer. You don't pray to Krishna. When you chant, you don't pray to Krishna to chant properly. So everything is based on grace, ultimately. We have to do the best, and then Krishna will do the rest. That is the answer. Very simple answer. And so he said, then you can cross over all difficulties of conditional life by my grace. That's the issue, the grace. We need the grace of Krishna. By the grace of Krishna, we can speak. By the grace of Krishna, we can hear. By the grace of Krishna, we can scratch our head. We talked about it before, right? By the grace of Krishna. Even such a simple, ordinary thing like scratching one's head is only possible. Coughing, you can't. Everything is under Krishna's control. So, Machita Sarvadurgani, if you direct your consciousness towards me, then Sarvadurgani, all the difficulties of material life, Mat Prasadam, by my mercy, Tarishyasi. Atasetva Mahankaram Nashrasati. If you do not act in this consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. That's the material world. You will be lost, you see. So then if something is not clear, what should we do? You should just wait till it is clear. And you can't make a mistake like this because you depend on Krishna. You just, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, so let me see what Krishna says. And Prabhupada, I give you an example. This was told to me, I think by Tamal, Krishna Goswami, that they were sitting one time together, all the big men. And Prabhupada, there was one problem in our society, and Prabhupada said, what shall we do about it? Tamal Krishna Goswami, what is your idea? And TKG was pretty good at finding solutions, so he gave a good solution, and Prabhupada said, not a good idea. Then Giriraj Swami, what is your idea? And he spoke very nicely, and Prabhupada said, not a good idea. Then Jagadish Maharaj, what is your idea? Brahmananda, what is your idea? He went through the finger went around to everybody. Then until it came back to Prabhupada. And then Tamakrishna Goswami asked Srila Prabhupada, what is your idea? He said, I don't have an idea. That's why I'm asking you. He said, I don't have an idea. That's why I'm asking you. So, therefore, let's wait. Here's the point. Let's wait what Krishna says. Let's change the subject. And they talked about something else. And after half an hour or so, 20 minutes, I forgot what it was, Prabhupada lifted his hand and said, now I know what to do. And he gave this wonderful explanation that actually incorporated everybody's conclusion in some way. Everybody felt, well, I'm in there, actually. You know, it was magic, you know. And Tamakrishna Goswami said, Srila Prabhupada, how did you get this wonderful idea that supersedes everything we have said and even incorporates it? And he said, well, I just waited for Krishna. Krishna told me, you know. So there's a classic example. Then Prabhupada, he didn't know what to do. He asked everybody if there's an answer coming forward by the mercy of the Super Soul. And when nothing really is 100%, Prabhupada said, well, let's just wait what Krishna says. And that's a good tip. That's a really good tip. Depend on Krishna, and all activities depend on me. So if it's not clear, just wait till it becomes clear. Like one of my friends, he wants to go to change the city. But I told him, I said, you want to change the city, but I mean, this is your idea. He said, yes, it's my idea. I said, you see the disadvantages of your present situation, right? You don't see the advantages. That's when people move. They don't see the advantages of the situation. They see the disadvantages of the situation. And so they, oh, let's go there, because they see the advantages. After some time, they see the disadvantages. Oh, let's go there. He sees the advantages of a situation, not the disadvantages. So in human life, we go from one advantage, disadvantage situation into the next advantage, disadvantage situation. Right? And in this way, we never come to the conclusion. Whereas a Paramahamsa, he turns the disadvantages into advantages, and the advantages are advantages. So it is an advantage situation. Right? Because he just turns the disadvantage into advantages. There are two stories as far as advantages and disadvantages. There was one man, he plowed an acre. This is a story in Germany. He plowed an acre, and all of a sudden the devil came out and said, this is my land. This is my land. Whatever you grow here is mine. So the farmer was very smart. He said, all right, I'm going to grow wheat this year. You can take the wheat. Oh no, I grow whatever is above the earth. Oh, he asked the devil, what do you want? What's above the earth or down the earth? He said, above the earth. He said, all right. So this farmer was growing carrots. So the devil became very angry because he was cheated. He said, next year I want to have it under the earth. And then the man grew wheat. You know, so he saw always the advantages he had and the advantages of the situation if he turns it into the right direction. You know, this is one example, to see the advantages. There may not be advantages. And the other story, this is a very true story. There was one man in South Africa, and he owned a beautiful valley, but it was very poor soil. So he stayed there because he got it from his grandfather, great-grandfather, all the way to Adam and Eve almost. And he told his son when he was dying, his sons, please don't sell this land. He said, there are many advantages here. I know it's not the greatest land, but you have a peace of mind. Nobody bothers you here. Nobody will ever bother you, because if the land were rich, people would bother you. But because it's not rich, it's poor land, they won't bother you. It's an advantage, you know. And so when he died, his son read in the papers that a diamond was found in one of the mines of South Africa. He was living in South Africa. And he said, let's go there immediately. we want to find diamonds. And they sold his land and bought a house in Johannesburg or Windhoek or one of these, Durban. And all his life he went into the mines. And sometimes he found a little diamond, but it was not worth it. Just to make a living, he found something here and there. So then he died, and before that he told his sons, I made a mistake. We were living very poorly externally, but actually our quality of life was wonderful. We had wonderful air, we had no neighbors, we had no noise, we had fresh water from our little streets that runs through it. And we made a living because whatever infertile land we made fertile by cow dung, etc. We turned the disadvantage into advantages. And so he died. Now, 50 years later, there was one geologist. His name was De Beer. He was from Belgium. It's a Belgian name. De Beer. And he heard about the diamonds in South Africa, so he took a team together of helpers. He hired all kinds of helpers and of horses. They went through searching for diamonds in South Africa. So he came to this valley, that valley that we just talked about. And he looked around and looked into the river. And there he saw something glittering. He pulled out the biggest diamond of world history out of that place, that land, you see? So, and actually that became the foundation of the De Beer family, who are owning the diamond market in the world. Therefore, diamond market is in Antwerp, Belgium, because of this found De Beer family. It's the foundation of the wealth, incredible wealth of the De Beer family. And so this man, he had the diamond here, right there, but he went outside. In the same way, we have the diamond right here, in our heart, right? We have the holy name, which is the diamond of the diamonds, but we are looking here, and we're looking there, and I want to go here, and I want to go there, and look over there, and this wonderful thing, that wonderful, that, and then we die with nothing. Although we had the diamond right next to us. So this is a very interesting story because it explains the situation that the most important thing in life is really to develop our relationship with God. That's the most important thing. And even my mother, even she would, sorry, this is my father now. He would say, first comes God, then comes God, and then comes God. No, my mother said it. First God, and then God. And then the others, and the others, and then the others, and then yourself. That's a good way to live, actually. It's a good way to live, you know, that God first. And so that's true when we chant. If you want to chant well, God first. If you want to do something well, God first. You know, in American money bill, it says, in God we trust. It's a joke. They don't trust in God. They trust in money and power. That's all. Particularly the United States, right? If Iraq, I always say, if Iraq would be known for carrots and potatoes, America would not have gone there, right? Is that true? If Iraq is famous for carrots and potatoes, America would not have gone to Iraq. They came for the oil, right? So that's the kind of the idea that people forget about their own relationship with Krishna, which is the most important thing, to revive that relationship. Because if we do that, then we get everything we need from Krishna. Everything we need from Krishna. This is a way to solve our problems in this world. If we understand, to that degree, we understand this and act on it, that's the difficult part. I mean, I know this since I joined the movement, but to act upon it, that's the difficult part. That requires some purification. It requires some time to be actually acting on it perfectly, because then you're a pure devotee. That is wisdom. And so in Western materialistic civilization, there is very little wisdom. And even if there is wisdom, people don't see it. Like this man didn't see his diamond in his house, in his backyard. Like there is this famous saying that self-realization is the first step to improvement. It's a great sentence. Selbstverwirklichung ist der erste Weg zur Besserung. I heard this 100,000 times from my parents. But the depth of it, to understand what are they actually saying? Self-realization means to realize the self, meaning realizing God, because we are part of God. We are not God, but we are part of God. Self-realization, God-realization is actually leading to the same realization that everything is God, including ourselves. We are not God, we are parts of God, we are servants of God, but we are still one with God in essence and different in potency. So that's the most important thing. And so this poor woman, I feel sorry for her. She wrote this book, and I said, it won't help you. And it doesn't matter if I tell her or not, it doesn't make a difference, because she cannot hear. She cannot hear. Even in the Bible it says they have eyes and do not see. They have ears and they do not hear. It's a wonderful sentence. People have eyes. Some look at the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. Some hear of him as amazing. Others can't understand him at all. You know? And people read Bhagavad Gita and still they don't get anything out of it. Like, for example, in this purport of this verse that we just read is one of the famous acts. No one should be carried away by the false ego conception of life. One should not think himself falsely independent of the laws of nature or even free to act. He's already under the laws. But as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from material doubt. There's the thing we talked about. If there's doubt, Krishna suhe sama maya andakar. Where there's Krishna, Krishna is like sunshine, Maya is like darkness. Wherever there's sunshine, there's no question of darkness. So if you want to, it's getting too dark here, then switch on the light. Or if there's no electricity, then wait for the sun. Because the sun will come. Right? The sun will come under all circumstances. So we have to wait for the sun. And Prabhupada says one should note who's not active, he's losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned souls, so we are not alone. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. Nobody knows. Pravittim chan nevittim sadhanana vadu asura. Krishna says people don't know what to do, what's to be done, what not to be done, right? But a person acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. You know, so it's prompted by Krishna. That Prabhupada, he was not able to go to America for a long time. For a long time. And he didn't even know whether he should take sannyas or not at one stage. And then various people came up to him and said, you should take sannyas. And then he understood that Krishna is telling me. My spiritual master is telling me, he said, through others, you know. So then, even going to America, then from one day to another, everything became very clear to him. This is it. This is the mission. I'll go in my old age. And he started working on it, talking to different people, Murari, Srimati Muraji, and speaking to the President of India to give him currency exchange or something, I don't know the details. But he knew that Krishna wanted him to go, and he went. And even when he came, he said, my dear Lord, I don't know what you want me to. You have sent me. Why you have sent me here? You didn't send himself. He said, why you have sent me here? You were sent by Krishna. Right? And he said, these people are hopeless, which is true for a large amount of people. They're hopeless, you know. And make me dance, make me dance. I will act according to your will. Whatever you want me to do, I do. And so Prabhupada started singing, and he was surprised. that all of a sudden he had a whole crowd of young people gathering around him who could understand. How did these people, this average, how do you say, not average, the reflection of American society, the lost people, everybody's lost in this world. How did they get the intelligence to understand Prabhupada? It was within, Krishna from within. And so many of us can tell amazing stories how we came to Krishna consciousness. I'm absolutely transcendental how Krishna worked it. More about it at another time. And so that's why they got the understanding from Krishna. I give the understanding by which they can come to me, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Now that requires Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajata Prabhu who worships me in love. We were not doing that. But somehow the Lord Chaitanya wanted us to come to start the Krishna conscious movement. First in America, then all over the world, and then India also finally. And now it is taken over. I'm now 75 years old, and I'm happy to know there are 400 temples I can go to. There's no dearth of temples to visit and preach Krishna consciousness. 400 temples, there's a lot of work. So therefore, I eat my fruits and nuts and stuff like that to be able to give a lot of opportunity to hear, chant, and just do my work. And so that's actually our mission. Our mission is to somehow or other, materially we have to take care, we have to feed our belly to satisfy Krishna. And Prabhupada said that. There's one, I read this before, and I want to read it to you again because I find it so sublime, what Prabhupada said there. Where are you? Must be up here somewhere. Srila Prabhupada said there it is. What if people do not want to hear our message? Pradyumna asked. Which is a good question. People don't want to hear. Most people don't want to hear. In Germany, they become aggressive. They go, many of them go like this, and some people go like, they look very stupid when they do that, The finger points towards themselves, and so it's true, most people don't want to hear about that. Prabhupada's answer is, the people might not understand our message, but Krishna will be pleased. And that is our mission. That is our mission. That is the key. You all should have this. I'd be willing to mail it out to yourself if I had not done it yet. You should read this. It's just gorgeous. Prabhupada's answer, so precise, from a philosophy. People may not understand our message, but Krishna will be pleased. I mean, I give you an example. We had a court case in Germany, a hugely publicized court case in Germany. It was we were in a doghouse, practically speaking. Doghouse means you're really in trouble. And so we went into the courtroom and we were singing Hare Krishna, not Hare Krishna, we sang the German national anthem. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. The cameras were there, television was there, and they couldn't believe it that we walked into this court case singing the German national anthem while our children were distributing cookies to everybody. So when the judge came in, he saw the prosecutor, said, Mr. Are you eating a cookie there? He said, yes. Where did you get it from? From the Krishnas, So it was amazing how Krishna was pleased. And ultimately we won the court case because of it, because we put Krishna on the map. The first thing, we had kirtan. And they wanted to stop us, and we just kept going. So the people might not understand our message, but Krishna will be pleased, Prabhupada replied, and that is our mission. He continues, they thought that Jesus' mission was stopped, they killed him, but his mission was attained. He preached 3 years only, but so many followers. He pleased Krishna. I mean, half the world is Christian, more than half the world. Just the Catholic religion has 3.3 billion, the biggest religious congregation in the world, still. 3.3 billion followers. They are Kanishta Adhikaris, that's a fact, most of them, Kanishtas, and their understanding is not very deep, they have no knowledge of the soul. From the top to the bottom, no knowledge of the soul, no understanding, they're spiritually not very educated as such. But the idea to worship God and sing His praise and use one's time and one's money, they give a lot of money, this is all coming from Christians, to preach Krishna, God consciousness, is quite amazing. Just one man, not from Jerusalem, from the backwaters of Israel. I mean, what's the backwater? Say somebody speaks the truth in the tip of India somewhere. And people in Delhi will say, or in Bombay, oh, this is just from the backwater. What does he know? Right? The religious or aristocracy couldn't understand, couldn't accept. He's coming from Nazareth, a little village, you know. But in 3, he was not educated. He didn't have a PhD, materially educated. He was not trained as a priest, but he spoke the truth. He spoke the truth. It's so much so that for the last 2,000 years, people are talking about it. Think about it. That's not an easy thing done. I mean, who talks about the Caesar? Who talks about so many people that came? Alexander, where is he? No impact on the world whatsoever. So you see what one man can do if he's God conscious. Then Prabhupada continues, we must not be disappointed that no one is hearing Krishna consciousness. We'll say to the moon, we'll say to the stars, and to all directions. We'll cry in the wilderness because Krishna is everywhere. Now, we want to have a certificate from Krishna that this man has done something for me. That's the point. And Prabhupada, he took that very seriously. He wanted to do something for Krishna, you know, something practical. There was one godbrother of mine, he just died. And naturally, I won't say his name. He stood in the gateway of the temple in Vrindavan, and Prabhupada passed by and said, he quoted Shastra, that I met your grace by providence, this verse, famous verse, I've met your good grace by providence, etc. And Prabhupada said, pointed with his cane to the puddle. There was a puddle of water in the temple. Prabhupada said, do you see the puddle? He said, yes, Prabhupada. He said, clean this up, do something practical. So Prabhupada was not impressed by high-sounding prayers or whatever. He wanted to do something practical, something that actually helps, that actually makes a difference in the life of the world. You know, so we want to have a certificate from Krishna that this man has done something for me, not popularity. You don't want to be popular with the public because they're all, what is the verse? Svavitvara hostrakara samstuta purusha pashu. Men who are like, right? We don't. If you become the leader of asses, that means you're the biggest ass. Automatically, right? You're the biggest ass, right? Small asses, they vote naturally the biggest ass to their leaders, you know. So, not popularity. If a pack of asses says you're good, what is the use? We have to please Krishna's senses with purified senses. And this was spoken, it's reported in Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, 58, a visit to Boston. There it is. That's where I got it from. You know, it's just beautiful. We want to have a certificate that this man, and all of us, we should have that certificate, you know. We should be able to have a good resume when we leave, you know. And naturally we know every human being is a mixture of fault and glory. Bhaktisiddhanta used to say, and Prabhupada used to repeat it, fault is in everyone, glory is in everyone. Human being is a mixture. But there should be enough glory in our resume that we can, rest in peace. We have done something for Krishna. Not on the same level like Srila Prabhupada. He was all glory, there was no fault, but as far as the rest of us, we are not perfect. Therefore, rather than dwelling on the fault of somebody else, let us turn to our own fault. And we have a lot to do for the rest of our life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I want to read to you two little things more that Prabhupada says, which is wonderful also. He said, your business is not to satisfy the crowd. Your business is to satisfy Krishna. And then the crowd will automatically be satisfied. How is that? Because in due course of time, if you water the root of the tree or the trees, it will take time. Not this life maybe, but previous, future life. They hear the holy name on the street 2 times, 3 times, and there was a famous anti-cultist, Father, what was his name? Father Haag in Germany. He was on the television all the time ridiculing our movement. He was one of the representatives of the church, set aside for this, The church in Germany has this. They have representatives who are simply looking for stool. One came to our table, and I said to him, he said, I'm the representative of the church in matters of new religious movement. I said, are you not ashamed? I said to him, I'm not ashamed that you look for dirt in others. What about yourself? Have you ever thought about that? And he turned away, because that's a fact. So this man, Father Haag, he gave a lecture in Frankfurt, I think, and I went there. And I put a wig on my head, on my bald head, wig, wig? I wore a wig. So he couldn't recognize me. And I sat in a nice suit with tie in the first bank, in the first row, to listen what he had to say. And I listened to I made notes to whatever he said. And then at one stage he said, but one good thing I have to say. You have your beads there? Can I have your beads? Can I use it for a moment? So he said, one thing I have to say. And he pulled a bead bag out. He said, they have these beads. And on these beads they chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So I must say, sometimes, when I'm frustrated, when I'm depressed, I chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I couldn't contain myself. I took my wig off, threw it into the air, and said, hey, all fortune to Father Haag. He has come to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. He said, Mr. Brinkman, he said, Father Haag, I'm so delighted that you are engaged in chanting the holy name. Keep on doing this. This will help you. It's a true story. You see, so even this guy, he somehow or other started to chant Hare Krishna, And people are against it. I remember we had a festival recently in Switzerland, and the man in charge of the government department, he said, you can sing anything you want, but not this Krishna. Don't sing this Hare Krishna. Don't sing that Hare Krishna. You have no permission to do that. It was a demon. So Prabhupada said, Your business not to satisfy the crowd, your business is to satisfy Krishna, and then the crowd will be automatically satisfied in due course of time. You see Jagannath one time, you will achieve liberation, but not in one lifetime. It will take some time. Your spiritual life has begun, right? Then he said, we are going to give them something, Krishna. So you should be very careful whether you're delivering Krishna in the right way. Then they will also be satisfied. And then here is something that I saw, which was actually spoken by, Pramod Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, who was a very dear godbrother of Prabhupada. There's a younger Puri and an older Puri. This is an older Puri. He died with 104 years. And he said, very wonderful, those who try to preserve the principle of religion while simultaneously trying to maintain popularity with the world will have to show their approval for so many conflicting doctrines that the purity of their true religion will be lost. You have to conflict. Once you say A, you have to say B. Once you mess with Maya, Maya will catch you. And then you have to make so many agreements. You know, they say, oh, we shouldn't wear dhoti, we shouldn't say kurta, you know, we should... somebody said, what is that sign? I don't know, my father told me, or something, you know. No, we should be straightforward. Then he says, rather than serving that pure spiritual religion, they become servants of public opinion. Public opinion, there it is, right? Though they may receive applause from the people at large, they cannot do them any good. Because if you do something good to a person, if you somehow they chant Hare Krishna, if he speaks the holy name, you know, that's the main thing, you know. Though they may, no one can preserve their principles, their spiritual principles, without being aloof of the opinion of the world. You have to be aloof of the opinion, whatever people say. That's all right, chant Hare Krishna, that's all right. You know, there was a devotee, his name is Amadas. He was in our temple, and he was chanting a lot. But he was a little, you know, he had some, there was something funny about him. So I told him he was called to the army. And he said, oh, shall I go? I said, you have no choice, they arrest you. So he said, what shall I do? He said, can you live on nuts and raisins? Nuts and raisins, peanuts and raisins. Can you live on that? He said, yes. He said, take 2 bags, one with nuts and raisins, and chant Hare Krishna all the time. So we went there, investigation. He said, so you look rather strange. Well, that's my dress. So why did you come like this to the army? Because I said, I want to preach to everybody the glories of Krishna. He told the officer. And he went on, you know, and at night at 2 o'clock he would wake up, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare. In the middle with all the other people sleeping, people started complaining about him, left and right, you know. And when they were running in the course, he said, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Ram. And he was eating his nuts and peanuts. He didn't eat any of the other food. He said, this is horrible food. I take nuts and peanuts. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Ram, 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 Ram. And he went on like this. And after 3 days, he was dismissed as unsuitable for the military. You see what the holy name of Krishna does. It's a very simple thing to do, right? So the name does everything. Let me see if there's another last thing.
And that was which place? Huh? Which military?
Huh?
Which military, which place? Which place?
Germany.
In Germany.
His name was Amadas. Then Prabhupada said, this is a defect of Western civilization, vox populi. Vox populi, taking opinion from the public. But what is the value of this public opinion? Drunkards, smokers, meat eaters, women hunters, they're not first-class men. So what is the use of such first-class, fourth-class, fifth-class men's opinion? We do not listen to such opinion. What Krishna says, that is standard, and that's all. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His version is final. No public opinion, no democracy. It's very strong, you know. It says, I love these statements, you know. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, come on, come. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama. Nitai Gaur Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur Hare Bol. Jai Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur Hare Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premananda, Hari Bol. Thank you very much.